Welcome to the Global Woman series, a summer of honest conversations with women navigating life between worlds. From grief and reinvention to finding love at 39, these are the real, raw, and wise stories of global women redefining home, identity, and connection. Over the next few weeks, you'll hear from inspiring voices who've lived the questions about belonging, purpose, relationships, and what it really means to choose this life abroad. I'm Amanda Maxime, and this is This Expat Life. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to another episode of This Expat Life with the Global Woman Summer Series. Today I'm joined by Elle McPherson, who is an ICF certified coach, a certified erotic blueprint coach, yoga teacher, and accelerated evolution trainer who helps high-achieving individuals reconnect with pleasure, presence, and purpose. And with over 15 years in international nonprofit leadership, she now supports expats, creatives, and change makers in navigating transitions, healing burnout, and creating lives that feel as good as they look on paper. Originally from the US, Elle moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina, a journey sparked by love, and now lives there with her Argentine husband. And we will be talking about that. And Elle brings a global lens, heart-centered presence, and a belief that life abroad can be both an outer and an inner adventure, exactly how I see it myself as well. So I'm very excited to speak with Elle. Welcome, Elle.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show. First, let's start here. Where are you calling in from?
So I am actually at the moment, I am home in the US visiting my family outside of Boston.
Okay, interesting. And you live in Argentina now, in Buenos Aires. Can you share a little bit about your journey, how long you've been there, what led you there, and how you, we know you moved for love, but how did it actually happen, and what is your story?
Yeah, so long story short, pre-pandemic, I went to Buenos Aires. I was working remotely. So I had a career in working in international development. And at that time, I had gone freelance, and I was working as a freelance kind of financial consultant for a couple of different international nonprofits. So I had a completely independent work, and I went to Buenos Aires because the time zone is kind of aligned with like the US East Coast working hours.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be there for like a couple months and then, move on and go to Spain or Portugal. I was very much in my like nomad phase at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was in Buenos Aires. I went for a work study like it was like a adult, co-living, co-working program kind of thing.
Yeah.
I did that for a month, and then I stayed on because I wanted to go to Patagonia for the holidays.
Yeah.
I stayed. I liked it. I mean, this is all like right before the pandemic, right? So I didn't obviously know what was happening.
Yeah.
In January of that year, I was still in Buenos Aires. I went to a meet and greet through a program called Internations, which runs like meet and greets for expats and locals across the world. And I met my now husband. Didn't know it at the time. We essentially had a one-night stand. Kind of stayed in touch like briefly through chat, but I didn't see him again. And then I went to Rio for Carnival in 2020.
Hmm.
And then from there, I went to the US, really with the idea that I was going to visit my family and then keep going. But while I was in the US in early March of 2020 is when the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And it was a scary moment because at that moment I was completely nomadic. I didn't have a home base. The whole world was shutting down. Everyone was like going home, and I didn't really have a home to go to.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I was at my brother's house in Washington, D.C. when this happened, where I had lived previously for many years. So I ended up just staying at my brother's house for that whole time. But during this process, somehow, like looking back, I don't even know really how this happened. But my partner, my now husband, and I started chatting a lot, and we were both like locked up in our houses basically.
Yeah.
So so for 2 years we talked. We weren't like together, but there was always this like idea that there was something there.
Hmm.
So for 2 years we stayed in touch. We built like really the foundation of a really solid friendship with always like that little spark of something.
Yeah.
And then finally, at the end of 2 years, when Buenos Aires or when Argentina opened their borders back up, at that point, it was like, okay, I think there's something here.
Yeah.
So at that point, at the end of 2021, I went back to Argentina. But mind you, I'd met him once in person.
Yeah. And he's Argentinian, right? Just to
He's
confirm.
from Buenos Aires, yeah.
Yeah.
He came pick me up at the airport. And I don't know, that was honestly kind of it. Like, he picked me up at the airport. I went to meet his family for New Year's, which is a big deal in Argentina. And we basically, that's it. I came and went a little bit between that time, but in the last 3.5 years, I basically lived in Argentina. We got married last year. We had one wedding in Buenos Aires and then another wedding here last summer in last August at my mom's house. Um, and then, yeah, this year we bought a house and now we're expecting a baby. So like life has gotten progressively more serious in Argentina.
Yeah, wow, I love this story. But okay, you went to Argentina to see him again, and now, I mean, you're married and expecting a baby, but in between there must have been decisions of like, okay, am I really
Yes.
staying here? And I know, I mean, I've never been in that situation, but I know from a lot of friends and clients, they move for love and they need to have the hard conversations. Can you share a little bit about your own decision making in this whole journey, like how it felt for you to make the decision, okay, I'll move to Argentina. You come across as a really independent woman as well. I've met you in Argentina. Was that also difficult for you to make that decision, like I'm moving for someone else? I would love to.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in the beginning. I mean, I think well, I will say that we had 2 years to talk on the phone, right?
Yeah.
And while that was like, in a way, a struggle, I also look back on that with a lot of gratitude because it gave me like 2 years for us to really get to know each other without, like, I see couples that meet each other and then immediately there's all this pressure and all these questions about like,
Yeah.
well, who's going to be with who? We really, like, there was no choice, right? Because of the pandemic,
Yeah.
we didn't have to really answer those questions right away because this wasn't even an option. So it gave us 2 years of really getting to know each other. And during that time, we were both dating other people and being pretty open about it. So I think that also like helped build our foundation
Hmm.
without immediately going into like we're in an exclusive relationship
Yeah.
and one of us has to move and change our whole life. So there was kind of a lot of time to process it, I guess,
That's
which in
nice.
retrospect I think was helpful. Um, like I remember at one point in those 2 years, I don't know where, but the kid thing came up because yes, as you said, I'm a pretty independent person. I love to travel. I like my life. And I've always been a little bit like, I felt like my life could be pretty complete without children
Yeah.
and focus on travel and my career and all those friends and everything. And yet there was also part of me that was like, I think I'd really love to have kids. And
Hmm.
I know there are some people who were like pretty firmly one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I remember asking him that. I'm a coach, right? So I asked, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it you to have children? And I remember he said 8, and I was like, oh, like that like sat with me. I was like, okay, so if I could pursue this with him, like that seemed like a big deal to me, right? I'm kind of
Yeah.
committing to at least pursuing trying to have children with him if we go down that road. And I had it like that. It was a little bit of like a process. And then, so I already knew that kind of like making that decision into going in to pursue the relationship. And then at the end of 21, when I went back, yeah, there was, because before, just like coincidentally, I had moved for a guy,
Hmm.
another relationship, like 2 years prior, and that had not panned out very well. I had
In
moved to another city
okay,
in
but
the
in the
U.S.
US, yeah.
Yeah, I moved to South Carolina to pursue someone else who also I had like a long-term
Uh-huh.
distant relationship with. The time came to move to be with him. I didn't really want to move to South Carolina, but I wanted to be in a relationship.
Hmm.
So I went. It all blew up rather quickly and spectacularly. So I did have a little bit of like PTSD is a strong word, but I
Yeah,
had some remnants from that.
I
And
understand.
so
Yeah.
all of that came back up when I
Hmm.
was thinking about going back to Buenos Aires. So what really helped me was talking to friends, talking to my coach, reminding myself that this was and I was not the same person, and this was not the same relationship. Like,
Yeah.
and also in that case, like I didn't really want to move to South Carolina. It was just for this guy.
Hmm.
In this case, I had to remind myself that I had lived in Buenos Aires for like 4 or 5 months. And in that 4 or 5 months, I had met Fede like literally one time.
Yeah.
So I had a whole life there and I had friends that weren't just about him.
Hmm.
So while moving back was, or going back was mostly motivated by getting to know him better, I also reminded myself, like, I have my own life there too. I had my own activities, I had my own friends.
Yeah.
That really helped. And then I think what also really helped was putting a deadline on it. So I gave myself 6 months. Like, so when I went back that first time, I had a end date. I had a plane ticket out after 6 months. I said,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in 6 months.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, oh my God, I am moving and I like
Yeah.
sold everything I own and.
Yeah. But you also you went back with like it was pretty long term, 6 months. It's not just like a 2 week trip,
Yeah, I
right?
rented my house out. Like it was
Yeah. Okay, but it helps if you already had your life a little bit in Argentina and you liked it. So yeah.
That helped. Yeah, because I meet people who will say like, "Oh, I just sold everything and moved." Like that is like going in the deep end all out. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't recommend that.
No. Okay. And what were some of the challenges that came up for you in the first part of your journey together, those first 6 months?
Ooh, I'm trying to remember back to that. I don't know how, I don't remember at that point we were how much we were talking about like long-term future stuff. I think we were like talking around it a little bit. Because at that point, so in that whole pandemic time, I had bought a property in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh,
I'd
nice.
always had this idea of like having like living in the US. Like previously the idea had been live in the US half the year and have my home base and then travel half the year,
Yeah.
which actually ended up working out perfectly. So when I went to Argentina, I rented out my
Yeah.
house. Um, After that first 6 months together, he came here with me for 3 months and we did
Mhm.
spend some time there. And I think at that point, maybe I thought that like it wasn't so clear. I think there was the idea still that maybe we'd live in the US together. And I'm trying to remember like how those conversations evolved, like
Yeah.
around where do we live and how does that work? I don't remember it being like argumentative, but I think it just evolved.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and it like because I was working remotely
Hmm.
or I had more the flexible career, I think that that helped things. Like it would have been challenging if both of us were more fixed in,
Yeah.
you know. Um, I think also in those first 6 months, um, I don't know, I'm trying to remember if like language. So I came to Argentina speaking Spanish.
Hmm.
It's definitely better than it was when I first got there. It's still challenging some days. Like I feel like my listening comprehension is really good.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I still sometimes can't express myself as well as I'd like. And
Yeah.
that is frustrating at times. Like his family doesn't speak English. We spend a lot of time with them. So
Yeah.
I'm often just kind of like a bystander, like following a ping pong match, trying to know
Yeah.
who's saying
Yeah.
what.
Okay, and
um,
what does that do to you? Because you're someone, like you said, you were independent, nomadic, and now you are more a bystander and not fully understanding the language or not being able to fully express yourself. Did you notice anything about your identity, what it meant for you?
yeah, yeah, I definitely feel like that has good, okay, like good and bad. Like I think on the one hand, yes, I've always been a pretty independent person. And I think in a way, it's been good for me to have to be more like reliant on my partner,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
in a way that I don't think I necessarily would be if we were both in my country. Like I even think about this process, like now that I'm pregnant, right, and going through that journey,
Hmm.
he goes with me to appointments that I don't think I would bother to take him, you
Yeah.
know. And so in a way, it is nice. It's also maybe a bit of an Argentine like chivalry thing. Like he's
Uh-huh.
very gentlemanly and he'll offer to take me places. And so I've come to just really like enjoy that support and like accept it
Yeah.
um, in a way that I don't know if I would have done here. So in a way, I
Mhm.
like it. I like
Yeah.
how supportive and like I grew up in a family where like I traveled all over the world and it was no news is good news, right? My mom wasn't like, oh my God, call me when you get there, right? It was
Yeah.
just, you're good. Like there would be months where I traveled and didn't talk to my mom.
Hmm.
But now I'm in a family where it's like text me when you get home, you know?
Yeah.
And I've actually come to really like it. Like I like feeling cared for in that way. And I like
Oh.
in a way being more dependent on him and or like my father-in-law, every time I come and go from Argentina, he takes me to the airport and picks me up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like I didn't grow up in a family that did that, you know. It was like take
Yeah.
the bus, we'll see you when you get home.
Yeah.
It's really nice. It's really
Yeah.
nice. Um, so in a way, I think like I've given up my independence a little bit to I've realized like part of being a unit and part of being in a marriage and a family is accepting that help,
Yeah.
which I really like actually. Um, but yes, then there are moments where have struggled with feeling like more helpless or something like um or yeah, looking outside myself for someone to do something for me. And then I have to have those moments where I like remember the fact that I'm a really powerful person and I can like make and especially in this whole pregnancy journey. Um like trying to find the medical care I want and stuff. Navigating that in a foreign language and I'm not thankfully I've been a very healthy person, so I don't have a lot of experience
Yeah.
with the medical system, like even to begin with. So that has been a whole journey of
Yeah.
like, um, I'm also a coach who works around, with people around their body and agency and empowerment and stuff, and having to really like own that for myself in this journey of like, what kind of birth do I want and what kind of doctor do I want, and navigating that in a foreign system. So I've noticed some vacillation in myself between feeling like confused and powerless and overwhelmed, and then being like, no, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get the doctor I want.
Yeah. I love that you say that you learn to rely more on support and that you are enjoying it, because a lot of the people that I coach, and I guess my listeners here as well, they are very like independent people, very self-reliant. Asking for support doesn't come natural to them.
I was very much the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really resonated when you shared that story from before, like also with your family and just being so independent. So it's really nice to hear that you, instead of like it being like your independence being taken away, you actually come to see, oh, this is a really nice extra part for my life, and I can actually enjoy it and appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, we bought a house a couple months ago in Argentina, which is a whole journey. And the other day, like earlier, a couple months ago, when I was earlier in my pregnancy and I was more tired, like all my family in law came over, right? And at one point I was just like sitting on the couch. My mother-in-law's a good cook. They were in the kitchen doing whatever. And I was like, this is great. I, I do not need one of those people that's like, it's my kitchen, don't touch
Yeah.
things. I'm really happy to sit here on the couch and let them do whatever in my kitchen and make us a meal. Like it's really nice.
Yeah, maybe I also need to find an Argentinian husband. This sounds excellent. Okay. However, I can also imagine that if you're with someone in their culture, there comes and you move for them, so they have everything established, and for you, everything is new. And not even talking about the culture, but like you moving to a completely new environment. There is a bit of inequality in a relationship where the
Yeah.
other person has a bit more power, so to say. Did you experience that too, and how were you able to deal with that?
Yeah. That's something I think is really fascinating. There's the power dynamics in relationships. And I think about that a lot. Um, So going back to the independence thing, right? Like in Argentina, my husband has a bit of the like leg up, let's say, because of language stuff, culture stuff. Like, I don't know, just like you probably have experienced this, like just the difficulties of like banking, like
Yeah.
just trying to get a bank account it's still like very exciting for me to use the ATM because it's been like a process to be able to have my own bank account.
Yeah.
So yes, so like he has the leg up, let's say, in terms of all of that stuff.
Mm.
And I've had to be more reliant on him. So that's where like that independence and reliance piece comes on. Um, but I will say like, and this is just maybe the case of Argentina, but economically I have more power because I earn dollars.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of like, we've had to navigate that a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and I think in our relationship, we've managed it really well, but I know that this is like a huge point of contention and for some couples
Yeah.
around like earnings and how do you deal with like a couple who has very different socioeconomic ability.
Yeah.
I think we've navigated that pretty well, but yeah, like frankly, because I earn dollars have gone a lot farther traditionally in Argentina than pesos, which is what my
Yeah.
husband earns. So
Uh-huh.
that's a whole dynamic
Yeah.
where I kind of have the upper hand.
Yeah.
Well, then when we come to the US, like we are right now, it's the opposite, right? Like my husband speaks very good English, but still not as well as me. And my husband doesn't drive because he's such a city boy. And in Argentina, like you can take the bus, you can take the taxi. There's a really
Yeah.
good public system. So when we come here, and also like we don't live where my mom lives, you kind of have to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
So he's looking at me to go anywhere,
Interesting. Yeah.
which then for me feels like a bit stressful, right? Like I need to take you to the grocery store or to the gym.
Yeah.
So all of I think it kind of balances itself out when I think
Yeah.
about like all the different ways in which in different contexts.
Hmm.
And I think that it's just like being honest about it.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, like especially the financial piece. Like we've just had to have a lot of really honest conversations around that. And it's it's evolved from like when, like the first year, oh, I will say, you asked about the first year that I went back. We didn't live together. That first time that I went back,
Mm.
he stayed in his apartment and I was in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the right move.
Yeah.
A year later, he moved out of his apartment and moved in with me in a new apartment. And we decided, in terms of like the financial piece, that he would just pay, like reimburse me what he'd been paying previously for his apartment.
Mm.
Even though because I was now kind of, paying expat prices. So
Yeah.
I was living in an apartment that, like, frankly, most Argentines wouldn't have been able to afford.
Yeah.
So, like, we just decided to make it proportional. There's different
Yeah.
ways of trying to handle that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think this is a situation that, all couples need to deal with it, even if they are from the same culture. And also other expat couples, like I was a diplomat before. And so often the spouse who tags along cannot work in that country.
Yeah.
So you also need to have that conversation. Yeah, because there's an imbalance there too. Yeah.
Yeah. So thankfully, I've been able to, like, I already had remote work coming into Argentina. Um, but there also is that imbalance sometimes of, like, sometimes I love being remote in a way. And there are times where I'm like, it would be nice to just, like, go to an office and have my
Yeah.
colleagues
Yeah.
and feel like a little more settled, right?
Hmm.
Like, I've tried co-working spaces in Argentina. They're, like, far too loud to really have this kind of coaching
Yeah.
conversation. So that I've ended up staying at home a lot more, which can feel isolating.
Hmm.
So, like, yes, I've had my own struggles of trying to find, like, my community, my place, like, where do I spend my time? And there are times where I'm envious of my partner
Yeah.
who goes, into his office with he's worked in the same place for years. So he has really tight bonds with his colleagues. He has all his high school buddies. He has mom and dad, like,
Yeah.
2 miles away whenever he needs something. And yeah, there are times where I'm like, oh, I don't have that.
Yeah. And so what do you do with that?
I mean, I think it helps just having other expat friends who get it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly
Yeah.
like, just being able to, like, talk about it. Like, it is what it is, but just naming it and saying, like, yeah, sometimes this is hard. We're
Hmm.
all, and I think, like, then when I come back here, right, obviously my friends in the US, like, they just don't get it.
Yeah.
So having other expat friends who understand some of the unique opportunities and challenges, or having, like, a coach, right, someone who gets it, I think
Hmm.
is really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Okay. And did you ever, like, was there any resentment build up because of these small moments as well that you feel like, oh, I gave up everything for you and now I'm here? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I know that's very real.
Yeah.
I don't, so whenever I have those little moments where I want to start feeling like that, I have
Hmm.
to remind myself that these are my choices, right?
Mm.
And I think that's been a part of my own self-development journey as well. And I think my husband's actually pretty good in that, right? Because, like, we can do that with everything in life, right? So even with, like, and this is like a cultural thing a bit, right? Around, like, maybe like European American culture versus Argentine culture, which is, like, very, how do I want to say? Like, we have an obsession with productivity
Yeah.
and, like, being an entrepreneur, working for myself, right? That is hard to let go of sometimes.
Yeah.
So there'll be moments where, like, I'll want to blame my partner because, his his relationship to his work is quite different than mine is. Like, he shows up, he does his thing,
Yeah.
but he doesn't really think about work beyond that,
Yeah.
right? If I'm like, let's do XYZ productive thing on a Sunday, he'll be like, no, it's Sunday. This is not a day for work. Let's wait till Monday,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right? And then sometimes then I get frustrated, right? Or I'll want to be like, oh, well, you made me stay up too late because you wanted to watch a movie or XYZ, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed I was doing that sometimes, wanting to, like, sort of blame him
Hmm.
for, like, having not done the things that I told myself I wanted to accomplish. And thankfully, he's pretty good about being like, no, like, I didn't make you do anything. Like, you stayed up too late. You could have said no.
Yeah.
So that has, like, I'm saying that because that's helped me in my own journey of, like,
Hmm.
accepting, okay, yes, sometimes it's we want to kind of blame somebody else, or the whether it's the person or the society or the
Yeah.
job or whatever, for, like, our own choices. So I think it's been helpful for me overall in being like, yeah, okay, no, I chose that. And I, like, all of this has been my choice. And of course, choices come with consequences.
Yeah.
And I also chose them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you're taking full responsibility for your own actions in that
Yeah,
way.
it's like forced me more to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it doesn't mean that sometimes like, yeah, here and there I want to have a little vent or a little pity party for my own for the choices I made.
yeah,
Like I still like, yeah, like, this is hard and I chose this.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I love that. And what I'm also curious about, were you able to keep your own independent life in Buenos Aires that you had already started before you met him, and that you went back to those 6 months as well? And now you're really, you're married, you're expecting a baby. Are you still having your own circles of friends there as well? Because this is often what I hear from other people, that they moved for the other partner, and
Mhm.
so their friends are their partner's friends, and they just have some extra colleagues, maybe one friend on the side, but it doesn't feel as strong, those connections.
Yeah, I've been pretty mindful of that, right?
Mm,
So as I said, like I kind of already had a bit of a life before I got there. I will say the first time I went around that first 6 months, I felt like I put more focus on him and kind of getting our relationship established.
yeah.
And then we came back to the US together. Then we came back and we moved in together. And so I made a pretty conscious choice of like, okay, now we're living together. Our relationship is pretty established. I need to find my own thing. I did like a vision board party that year. And like part of my vision board was like, okay, I need to focus more on my own, having my own like group of girlfriends.
Hmm.
And so that year, I definitely was more focused on that. Like I teach yoga, so I started like teaching yoga in a studio, and I met some friends through teaching and doing other different things. So I've been pretty mindful about that.
Hmm.
And I think also my husband and I like understand the importance of having our own lives, even though we do have mutual friends, but like his buddies are, this is very Argentine, like his buddies are his high school friends.
Yeah.
Um, and every single Saturday he goes to the pitch and he sees like his buddies and his brother, and like that was worked really well for us. This year I gave up teaching because I'm pregnant, but like last year on Saturday, I would go teach yoga and like go to coffee with my yoga friends afterwards or whatever. And he would go to the pitch and be all day with his buddies.
Yeah.
And like that Saturday where we did our own thing and then came together at night was really nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's very nice. What practical tips, or also coming from your experience as a coach, but also as a person in an international relationship, would you have for the expats who have moved for their partner and they're feeling lost or disconnected or homesick, and they're just wondering if they made the right choice?
Yeah. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
um, I think it is like finding your own thing there. Because if you feel like you're only there for your partner, like of course there's probably going to be resentment, um, or little things that aren't going perfectly in the relationship will get magnified.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find even, yeah, if like my partner and I are arguing or just having no whatever, and then I go and I like see my girlfriends who also get what it's like to be living abroad or whatever, and we like, go to coffee and talk about it. I come home, it's like not a big deal, you know? So I think it's having those outlets and those friendships with people who can relate to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find that through, I mean, I think one of the benefits about living as a foreigner in a foreign city is like, at least in Buenos Aires, there's like a bajillion WhatsApp groups. There's a
Yeah.
lot, you have to put the effort in, but then there's like, it's almost easier to meet people than if I was living in my hometown where everybody has their established lives.
Yeah.
So it just takes a little bit of putting yourself out there. But then there's like WhatsApp groups, there's meetups, there's a lot of things where you can meet other expats.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes that little bit of extra effort. But I think having those relationships with people who understand, um, even if it's like I have a good friend who's from Russia and her husband and her moved to Argentina. It's not the same thing, but yet there's like a common shared experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think I met them when we went for brunch. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, okay. This is all super interesting, and I'm so happy you got to share your experience here because I'm often on the other side of it as a coach, and I hear all the more negative stories.
Mhm.
Or not negative, but the challenges that they're facing. So it's
I mean,
also
I'm talking to my coach about them too.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Um, I have one final question for you, and I want to invite you to come up with something other than what I just asked you for the ones in a relationship. But what is your number one hack to make living abroad easier, more fun, or simply better?
Mhm. I think it comes back to what I said previously about like realizing it was a choice.
Mm,
Because yeah, there are times where you want to have a pity party and be like, oh, this is just hard. And then I remind myself, okay, it's easier to think the grass might be greener. Like there are times where I think, oh, if I just lived in the US, XYZ would be easier.
mm-hmm.
And some things would, and some things would be harder, right? Like,
Yeah.
so reminding myself that this is the choice that I've made. It comes with certain consequences. Anywhere I would go would have pros and cons.
Yeah.
And also like I am, consider myself to be like an adventurer. And sometimes I do lose sight of that, right? Because it's not, it's one thing when you go for like a couple months and it feels like this exciting adventure.
Yeah.
Now it's like my life.
Mm-hmm.
So there are moments where I kind of lose sight of that, but getting that perspective back of like, no, this is an adventure. It won't be forever, probably.
Yeah.
And if I could see it, even like I'm trying to view this whole pregnancy thing as like, okay, this is a new adventure.
Yeah.
There are, like, in a way, this is something I've chosen. There are ups and downs on this, but it's like trying to see it as the adventure and the journey
Yeah.
and what comes with that. And of course, I'm not perfect. I have my moments where I lose sight of that. But when I can come back to that, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is an exciting adventure, right?
Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot about myself, and I'm getting an experience that many people will never have. And that gives me my sense of identity back of like, I'm an adventurous person. I'm doing interesting things.
I love that.
Then I feel more empowered.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's really great. Okay, thank you for that tip. That's a really good one. Elle, where can people find you if they want to know more about you?
I am on Instagram at beyondtheitinerary.com, as well as LinkedIn under my name, Elle McPherson, and my website, beyondtheitinerary.com.
Great, thank you. I'll put it also in the show notes. Elle, thank you so much for sharing your experience and tips here. It was lovely having you on this Expat Live.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.